Well, hello there, and welcome to Hugh's Reviews, the place for movie views and spoiler clues. Okay, folks, I know it's been a while since my last review, but here I am and raring to go. Last time I did a retrospective of the original Star Wars trilogy, and this week we're going to talk about the final film in the Skywalker saga, as it has come to be called, Rise of the Last Skywalker Force Awakening. The Force Jedi Awakens Skywalker Rise. JJ Abrams presents Disney's retcon of a Star Wars Skywalkers? Never mind, you get the idea. When viewed as a standalone film, Rise of Skywalker is a whiplash-inducing, almost fun, overly loud, jumbled bit of an amusement park ride. When viewed as the finale in the latest trilogy of films, it's a fan-service-stuffed, painfully obvious attempt at retconning the trilogy into a coherent whole. And when viewed as the culmination of 40-plus years and 9 films worth of effort, it is fundamentally broken. I have rarely seen so much time, effort, and skill and money wasted for so little result. You know, I made excuses for Force Awakens. It was a retread of New Hope, yes, but it felt like Star Wars, and in spite of the clownish video game attack on Starkiller Base at the end, it was a genuinely good movie. It had wit, charm, and style. JJ Abrams loves Star Wars. That was obvious, and he has a knack for bringing emotions to the fore. But the guy should stop writing scripts, except for maybe dialogue, and stick to story ideas others flesh out like he did there. He has great ideas, but his mystery box approach to storytelling has worn thin. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh, but the guy needs to have a box, stay in it, direct a simple and clear story, and leave it at one and done. He's a heck of a director, but he shouldn't be allowed to have too much input into his scripts anymore. Rian Johnson intrigued me with Last Jedi. I know Hamill and many of the fans objected to the direction he took with the classic characters, but it had so many possibilities. Unfortunately, those possibilities were choked back by his need to be overly clever and his unfamiliarity with big-scale effects. Take away the entire side quest Cantabite sequence, rework Leia's Wizard of Oz flying scene, trim it down by 40 minutes, and you got a really good movie. Luke's despondency, Rey's yearning, and Kylo Ren's fanaticism are so well written, framed, shot, and acted. These are wonderful choices, and I can count this film as having my second favorite lightsaber battle in the entire saga. The inventiveness, the physicality, the movements of the camera, the use of the color, the framing, the acting, the timing. Woo! It is really breathtaking. Not only in its execution, but in how with each move of the heroes, you can really feel what they're going through. Driver, Hamill, and Ridley should have been the focus, not all that side stuff that got equal time. With that stuff added, it's 2 different movies squished into one, and it's distracting and unfocused. And speaking of distracting and unfocused, now we get Rise of Skywalker, a movie that, at its core, is a broken and desperate attempt to wring some semblance of structure from an unguided set of films and appease the raging hordes of complainers. If you go into a movie looking to apologize, then you're gonna fail. And Rise of Skywalker fails on so many levels, in spite of its obvious heart. The film opens with the usual text crawl, but the phrasing seems exhausted, as if too many fingers pushed too many keys and they thought too long on what to say. After that comes a Kylo Ren battle sequence that would have been more viscerally impressive had it been in another movie. It's undercut a bit later in the movie when you see how helpless he is without his lightsaber. Who cares about all his battle training and his force powers? Take away his shiny stick and he's helpless as a kitten. Kylo Ren is looking to find and destroy Emperor Palpatine. No, that's not a spoiler, because from the beginning Disney has decided not to trust their audience with surprise and wonder, but instead shoved as much of the plot into the trailers and posters as possible until we were nearly sick of it. Even I, the legendary lover of Star Wars that I am, grew weary of their pushing for more attention. Apparently, Snoke didn't matter. Palpatine's behind everything, ever, and Kylo Ren is a dupe who can't make his own decisions. I loved the moment where Ren destroyed his mask in the previous film. He was shedding an affectation, forging his own path. Well, screw that noise, because now he rebuilds his helmet and walks around in it for all of 5 minutes so Disney can sell new action figures. Neat. And if you thought Rey was a Mary Sue in the first 2 movies, just hold on to your hat, because Abrams seems to have taken that bit of criticism and doubled and tripled down on it. Not only is she the most powerful Jedi ever now, and seemingly semi-omnipotent, but in spite of being raised on a desert planet, she is an expert sailor. But that's not just her, that's everyone with force powers in this movie. Everything just kind of works. Well, almost everyone, because certain characters are given force powers in this movie that have absolutely no business being given to them because reasons. Though the full power set for Jedi and Sith was never exactly spelled out in the other movies, there did seem to be limitations that allowed there to be a certain level of tension when they were in danger. But in Rise of Skywalker, there are no limits and no rules. The Jedi and the Sith here are now god creatures who can raise entire fleets of ships with their minds, destroy whole armadas with the wave of a hand, teleport matter on a whim, and literally raise the dead. Oh, and they can regrow limbs, so all those guys that got dismembered in the past movies must have just liked having really cool robot hands. Anakin didn't have to stay in his Vader armor to stay alive, he just liked wearing helmets and leather, 'cause who doesn't? And those powers come and go at the whim of an idiotic screenplay that discards said powers whenever it feels like it. It's kind of like how in Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon have super speed for one scene and then can barely move at a jog later. Rules, people! There have to be rules! But that's the problem with the entire movie. Convenience overrules logic at every turn. Abrams has literally nothing for most of his characters to do but watch Rey do stuff. So they're shoved into the background only to pop up occasionally to wave and say, hey, remember us? We're still here. The romance subplot with Finn and Rose is completely ignored. Maz Kanata shows up for reasons. Instead of having to cleverly find a way onto an enemy ship, a new character just shows up and gives them a magic coin that lets them get into anything, anywhere, anytime they want, and then she just goes away. And once there, the heroes don't bother with secrecy or planning, they just run around blasting people and making noise like morons. Hey, great plan, guys. Are you trying to fail? Hey, remember when Luke and Han at least wore disguises and snuck around the Death Star because they knew you'd have to be a brain-dead dolt to run around waving guns at everyone? I guess they were just wasting their time. BB-8 tags along for no reason. 3PO is programmed to read a forbidden language but cannot speak it because, an interpreter's job is to understand languages and then keep the translations a friggin' secret. Why even program the language into him in the first place then? And a new droid is introduced literally just to tell us when to feel happy or sad, because we're apparently too stupid to figure that out for ourselves. The Millennium Falcon, a ship that can take off and land vertically and hover in place like a drone, has to slide into a crash landing like a plane with a bad engine because the landing gear won't go down. And an entire fleet of ships cannot, and I'm not making this up, they cannot even figure out what direction up is without a special navigation beacon to guide them. Hey guys, look out the window and when you see the ground, go the other way! Or, just give every single ship in the fleet the guidance software, and then they don't have to worry about forgetting that down is the crashy direction. The rebels figure it out in 5 minutes, and you guys had 40 years! Why are we even worried about the bad guys anymore? They're confused by up and down. If it can be solved by watching Sesame Street, then it ain't hard. And why do stormtroopers have wheeled speeders when they have jetpacks and flying cars? And never mind that stuff Han said about making calculations for hyperspace being super important. Just point and click and then you can reach the next planet in a half a second. No problem! I guess he was just a bad pilot and an idiot. On and on it goes, one dumb thing after another as fast as you can snap your fingers. And I know you're gonna say, but the Force! You know what, if you have to use space magic as your reason for why everything just happens to work out all the time, you're writing a bad script. But that's modern Hollywood. Why bother with something as pedestrian as a coherent and well-thought-out script when you can have a series of loosely strung-together set pieces that flash by so fast the stupidity doesn't even have time to register? There's so little actual story that the movie actually becomes a find the MacGuffin fetch quest just so they can go to new sets to pretend something is happening. Abrams has so little for his characters to do that they seem superfluous, and then he keeps adding new ones that are just as useless. And then there's the fan service. Look, I know it's Star Wars, it's the last of the saga, some fan service is just obligatory. But boy did they go overboard. I don't even have the energy to go into that list, but suffice it to say that it read more like an over-caffeinated 12-year-old fanboy playing with his toys than a crafted film. So, let's talk about the plot points. I'll be as spoiler-free as possible. Just so you know, though, every death, every sacrifice, every revelation and lesson, everything in the Star Wars universe that has led us to this film is completely and totally invalidated by the time the credits roll, starting with Darth Vader's redemption. Hey, remember how I said Palpatine's back? Well, from what I can tell, he's back because Star Wars is creatively bankrupt, and after Rian Johnson killed off Snoke, there were no ideas left. Create 50 new pointless side characters, fine, but making up new bad guys is hard, so we'll just reuse the one from the first 6 movies. A script written by 4 different guys, and they couldn't come up with a better solution? So Vader, heroically turning on Palpatine and sacrificing himself to save Luke and return to the light, did not make him the chosen one who restored balance to the Force. It made him a minor fart in history. He's probably looking down from Force Ghost heaven, just wondering why he bothered. And speaking of Force Ghosts, remember when they had limited ability to interfere in corporeal matters? Yeah, forget that. Now they can do anything they want anytime they want. So why does Rey have to face Palpatine at the end? Why don't the billions of past Jedi Masters just show up and spank him a good one instead of standing the skinny orphan girl? For that matter, if they were that powerful the whole time, why did they send the skinny orphan boy in the first trilogy? I'm sensing a pattern here. Can we ever get a new Star Wars story on the big screen, or does everything just lather, rinse, and repeat into eternity so a bunch of space monks can get their jollies? They're probably cracking open ghost beers and laughing, "Hey guys, watch this, they're falling for it again." And don't even get me started on the final space battle. That's a whole batch of stupid I just can't get into without major spoilers. The longer the movie goes on, the more obvious it becomes that Abrams and crew were completely taken off guard by Johnson's movie and were desperate to course correct. It is painfully obvious that there was no guiding hand overseeing story elements between movies, and this awkward scramble was the best they could manage. They shove in every idea they thought should have been in the second movie, and all the ideas they had for 5 other films they knew they wouldn't get to make. So they threw everything into the pot and made a Thursday night leftovers casserole. Trying to get a cohesive through thread in this trilogy is, to quote Elton John, like trying to get gold from a silver mine. You find the occasional nugget, but you should probably be looking elsewhere. Even the prequels had some idea where they were going from the start. The prequels! When Disney made the Marvel films, there was oversight, planning, someone who kept all the pieces straight and maneuvered them towards a common purpose. When it came to Star Wars, they just threw money at the directors and forgot to check on them until the franchise was on fire. And this is it. This was the last chapter in the Skywalker saga. There's no going back or fixing it in the next movie. This was their last chance, and they so royally screwed it up that even I am tired of Star Wars at this point. You did it, Disney. You broke your biggest fan. I'm the Star Wars guy, and now I can barely stand the thought of ingesting any more Star Wars properties in any form. It's so depressing I almost gave up reviewing movies, period. Not just this one. If you insist on seeing this in theaters, don't go in expecting anything more than a series of shiny loud things. See it in 3D and enjoy the ride. But if you want something of substance and focus, go see something else. And that's it tonight for Hugh's Reviews. As always, I'd like to thank Moons of Vega Photography and the Central PA Computer Nerd for their continued support. I'd like to hear your thoughts on Rise of Skywalker. Did you love it, hate it, or just find it meh? You can find me on SoundCloud or drop me a line at WXPI Radio of Williamsport. May the Force be with you, and as always, happy viewing!